Hey everybody, it's Aaron the Pedantic, and today I'm going to yell at people about hit points. Stop acting like there's something wrong with hit points. There's nothing wrong with hit points. There's something wrong with you. Hit points are not for dummies. Okay, I know, hyperbole, but bear with me. So this is not a direct response to Taylor Lane, even though Taylor Lane was one of the ones that kind of famously brought this up. But then RPG Pundit made a good video talking about how hit points are actually kind of like risk points because they keep you from taking damage. They keep you from actually being hurt. Running out of hit points means I'm no longer able to avoid the hurdy. And this is something that also Matt Colville, brought up a long time ago, that if you are actually hitting somebody in combat, you're not actually hitting them necessarily unless they're a monster. If you're hitting a human type creation, then very likely they are avoiding damage, but they wouldn't be if they didn't have hit points. There you go. Very, very simple. You can very easily look in this beautiful book. It is called, what is it called? The Dungeon Master's Guide. Yeah, it's called the Dungeon Master's Guide, written by this nobody named Gary Gygax. And he describes in there on page 82 that hit points are kind of a mixture of things. A very, very small part of it would be your physical ability to withstand punishment. A very, very small part of it. It's something that would increase, and he uses this to describe people like Rasputin that can get, stabbed 37 times, strangled, drowned, and all this kind of stuff and still survive. And still kind of have the same people that are going to die from 4 hit point stab from a short sword or whatever. So he uses that language to say that. And he says the rest of it, the majority of what you're dealing with, is actually going to be this combination of luck, skill, awareness, all these things to avoid serious harm. And that somebody who has a lot of HP and they take a lot of HP damage, but they still have a pretty good amount left, they're just going to be covered in cuts and scratches and stuff like that because they're not seriously injured. They were able to avoid the attacks. Very little of hit points are actually meat points. Now, I'm going to address something and make some personal viewpoints known. So first off, the thing that I'm going to address is, and people will say, okay, well, if that is the case, if these are superficial cuts and wounds, why does it take up to 4 weeks for me to regain my health? Also on page 82, because it's a game. At the end of the day, it is a game. And what he was trying to do is he's trying to make it so that it would take time to regenerate. And he says that it's for game purposes, it is necessary for this time to happen. Now, he could have just, the phrasing could have been him just saying that this is how the game works. But it could also be saying that for game purposes, just like, strict timekeeping measure, must be kept, etc. You could infer from that he's saying, look, it doesn't take all that long to heal your body. You're going to, you could probably take a couple days, but for the purposes of playing the game the way that I want it to be played, it's going to take up to 4 weeks. It's going to be 1 hit point per day of rest, with a maximum of 7 per week, minus with your constitution modifier applied to it. So you could get less possibly than that. And it's going to be, no more than 4. 4 weeks is the cutoff. After that, you're good. And he's trying to say perhaps that is what makes the kind of game that he's wanting to run. And if you look at it, AD&D is full of that kind of stuff. It's full of stuff that says stuff takes time. Learning a language, time. Getting your health back, time. Training, time. Time. Travel, time. It's all up in there. So because of that, if you're not running that kind of game, you can absolutely just say, fudge it. I don't need all this stuff. I don't need this stuff I don't need it to take all that much time. I can let them get a hit die per day. I can let them get all of their health back, assuming that they don't have some kind of terrible wounds or anything like that. Do what the heck you want with it. But that's not a flaw in the hit point system. You just have to remember what exactly he was trying to do with it. He was trying to make it so, perhaps, I'm positing this, I don't know that it's written down anywhere, but I do feel like you could construe what he was saying is that it's necessary for the kind of gameplay that he wants to have for time to elapse whenever they are resting. And that, sometimes that means your little boo-boos are going to take a little bit of time. Okay. So that is my thing about that. I'm just nipping that part in the bud. Now, abstractions. Abstractions play heavily in D&D. And a lot of people try to minimize those abstractions and they try to play in this very blow for blow kind of way. Every attack is, like an actual attack and all this kind of stuff. Now, in BX and other editions, basically not AD&D, this is a lot more feasible because you have the shorter rounds. It's more feasible, but still not entirely. We're still dealing with abstractions all the time in D&D. And so the fact that people get all, out of sorts about dealing with hit points as an abstraction drives me freaking bananas because it is so wildly inconsistent to have a problem with that and not have a problem with all kinds of other things. Example, okay? So I mean, it is related to hit points, but so what is making a saving throw exactly mean whenever you are face to face with a dragon and it is unleashing its breath on you and you've got nothing on you? Let's say that you're bare butt naked. How exactly are you avoiding this? Is there anywhere that you can actually go? It's staring you straight in the face. How exactly are you avoiding it? The answer is that we deal with these abstractions all the time. We can use all kinds of things to explain reasons why that wouldn't be the case. And a lot of it would be us accepting that what we see on this grid, the way that we've described the environment and all that, might not include everything that is actually there. And it might not include our exact positioning at all times. And it might not include blow for blow, strike for strike, that kind of thing. And it's explicitly stated as such in our game with 1 minute rounds. It's not so abstractly done whenever we have the shorter rounds, but we know that a round in AD&D is going to be comprised of many attacks and feints and parries and all this kind of stuff. So I would say people should just embrace the abstractions. Don't get so caught up in the blow for blow narration and all this kind of stuff, especially if we are indeed playing with these longer rounds. Like, I definitely wouldn't do that. A lot of the movement initiative stuff, it just gets really weird when you try to describe it in terms of this, then this, then this, then this, then this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a game, and we're trying to have a combat play out. We're trying to have the players have meaningful choices that they can make in order to make to change how the battlefield unfolds and what the results are going to be. That's why we include stuff like cover. We include stuff like positioning rules and all of that. It's not for us to 100% get, view it like a movie. We're not trying to view it like a movie. We're trying to have it where the player can strategize and have cool stuff happen and win or lose combats based off of their, choices and consequences, risk, all that. It's a game. It's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. And the most important thing is how many characters died, how many survived, did we get any to surrender, can we use them for information, etc. That is the thing that we should be focusing on. That's all I have to say about that. Let's see what y'all have to say. Am I completely wrong? Of course I am. I am but a young whippersnapper and I know nothing. So that's it for today. Y'all take it easy.